Now, of course, we are waiting to see who arrives first. We understand that Donald Trump has left the Shangri-La Hotel and making his way to Sentosa. We will bring you that as soon as we get those pictures of the motorcade coming through. Sentosa Gateway, that's the name of the bridge that takes you from the city of Singapore over to that island. It's about 800 meters, so we'll probably see a bit of a glimpse of him as he makes his way into the center of the island for those talks at the Capella Hotel. Kim Jong-un, of course, staying at the St. Regis Hotel. At the moment, we understand that he is still very much there. As soon as we understand that he will have left, that is the scene outside there. A huge security presence, of course, as you can imagine at this hour. We will, of course, bring you those pictures as well. But we are, what, 54 minutes to go until the start of these historic talks. So I just want to give you an idea of what's being said by Donald Trump. At 5 a.m. this morning, he tweeted saying the fact that I'm having a meeting is a major loss for the US. He says the haters and the losers, that was a message for them. He also went on to say that meetings have been taking place between staff and representatives. They are going well, but in the end, that doesn't matter. He said we will all know soon whether or not a real deal, unlike those of the past, can happen. His US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has also tweeted saying that we are ready for today, #Singapore Summit. The last that we saw of Kim Jong-un, of course, was this surreal moment yesterday when the leader that has been in isolation for decades, representing a regime, a gangster-like regime, took to the streets of Singapore yesterday, doing a bit of a sightseeing mission, waving to the crowds. It really was quite something. Professor Robert Kelly joins me now from Busan National University. We couldn't quite believe what we were seeing yesterday.
Right,
what did you make of it?
Yeah, the cheering was a little unnerving, just like you said, right? I mean, as the world's worst human rights abuser, we have to have the clapping and the selfies. I was a little bit uncomfortable with that, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I know we have to sort of go through these motions and stuff to keep North Koreans on board, but my own preference is we need to keep the smiles and the backslapping and the rest of it to a minimum. Let's try to do this professionally.
Well, it wasn't a minimum last night, of course, was it? Because we saw selfies being taken with the Singapore foreign minister as well.
And
I wanted to ask you, I was on air when Kim Jong-il died in 2011, and rolling on that breaking news coverage. And I remember the conversation at the time where there was this moment thinking there might be, possibly, some kind of shift in the North Korean regime. It didn't. 6 years later, we had the status quo, if you like, maintained by Kim Jong-un. Fast forward to where we are today, this historic meeting between himself and the US president. I mean, this is a significant shift, is it not, for North Korea in terms of how it's playing the game right now on the world stage? Yeah,
and they have, I mean, to their credit and to Donald Trump's credit, we should say this, they have actually been saying to their own people that some kind of denuclearization deal and some kind of rapprochement with the Americans is in the works. I mean, that's actually a pretty big deal given how central the United States is and anti-Americanism is to North Korean ideology. So if they're telling their own people, right, they are kind of laying the groundwork for a propaganda ideological shift in North Korea. It seems like, we don't know. But that's actually good. I mean, that does mean that they're at least a little bit serious and not completely just flim-flamming us, which has been the concern all along, right, that this is kind of gamesmanship for them.
I think we can show our viewers, if we can, the front page of the North Korean state newspaper, which is unprecedented, showing the pictures of Kim Jong-un here in Singapore.
So that's good. It's progress.
I mean, progress of sorts, but moving forward, I mean, I know we have talked about whether or not there's going to be clear substance in this in terms of denuclearization. But surely this in itself is showing you a pace of change for the North Korean regime.
Yeah, it is. And again, in fairness to the Trump administration, they have begun to find success down to something a little bit more manageable, that this will lead to continuing talks. And it looks like the North Koreans are hinting at that too, right? If they're saying we're in this process towards peace or stability or whatever, right, that indicates that they too want this to continue to go forward. And that's not bad. I mean, at least, again, if we have a process, it's better than where we were last year. So, the president started...
Forgive me for interrupting, Robert. You're going to be with us, but I understand that Donald Trump, we are seeing him now. Rico, leaving Sentosa, I understand.
Let's get the latest now from Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, Babita. He's near the hotel where the summit is taking place. Rupert, what are you seeing?
Right, Rico, we are now, I don't know if you can see the picture here, we are on the causeway that goes across to the island of Sentosa, where the summit will be held, and just the first beginnings of Mr. Trump. Here he comes. So here comes the presidential motorcade behind me. Now there is his presidential limousine, two of them there. That's President Trump now heading across to Sentosa, to the Capella Hotel there. We understand Kim Jong-un has not left his hotel yet. I'm seeing pictures of his hotel. He's still at the St. Regis. So President Trump going in first, getting to the Capella on Sentosa. Obviously huge security around here, closing down all these roads while this convoy goes through. And we understand that their first meeting will be in about 50 minutes from now. So President Trump and Kim Jong-un will sit down together for a one-on-one with no one else present except translators, for about 45 minutes, starting at 9 o'clock local time, so in about 50 minutes from now. And then they will be joined by their officials for an expanded meeting that will go on until lunchtime, and then they will hold a lunch together at the same place at the hotel where they're meeting.
So what is likely to happen before Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump sit down to begin negotiations?
Well, they'll arrive at the location, and as you've just seen there, Rico, it's definitely President Trump who's gone in first. They will get there. There is a meeting room that has been prepared for the two leaders to hold their initial meeting in. So President Trump will go in there, and well, we're just seeing now. Yeah, they're arriving there. I'm just watching to see if Kim Jong-un's motorcade has left the St. Regis Hotel. That would be make him about 10 minutes behind President Trump. So yeah, really, this is the main event, starting at 9 o'clock, when they get to sit down face to face. And you know what all observers have been saying is this is something fairly unprecedented, because this is not the way diplomacy normally works. Normally you would have months and months of behind-the-scenes negotiations to draw up an agreement, and then finally two leaders would come together basically just to sign off on it. But what we have today here is something very fascinating. We have two very unusual leaders, not really, I mean, in the shape of Donald Trump, not really a politician, more of a property mogul who thinks he personally is good at sitting down, sizing someone up, negotiating with them face to face, and then striking a deal. And that's essentially what Donald Trump said he's going to do today. He's going to go into that room on the island behind me, sit down face to face with Kim Jong-un, size him up, he said, within a few seconds, and then decide whether this is a guy that he can do business with or not. So it's very, very interesting. It's, you know, obviously the whole world is now waiting and watching to see what happens really in the next couple of hours as to whether this is going to be some sort of historic change between the United States and North Korea, which have been enemies really for the last 70 years.
And these are pictures, Rupert, which many Singaporeans and the world have never seen before. We're currently seeing the convoy of U.S. President Donald Trump arriving on Sentosa Island. The summit will be taking place at the 5-star Capella Hotel. And of course, Kim Jong-un still has not left his hotel in central Singapore. And Rupert, when Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump sit down for their summit talks, who will be part of these talks, apart from these two leaders?
Yeah, I can tell you, Rico, that I'm just watching pictures here, live feed from the St. Regis Hotel, and Kim Jong-un's large convoy is moving out from the hotel right now. Now, my guess is that that's about 10 minutes away from where we're standing, about 15 minutes from the Capella Hotel. So if he leaves, yes, the convoy's pulling out now. So we'll expect him to pass us by here in about 10 minutes' time and arrive maybe at around about 8:30. So everything going according to plan at the moment. Our understanding, Rico, is that there will be this, as I said, this really rather extraordinary meeting starting at 9 o'clock, which will just be Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. No one else in the room except their translators for the first 45 minutes to an hour. Then both sides will expand the size of the meeting. They will bring in their advisors. Kim Yong-chol, the former spy master in North Korea, the North Korean foreign minister, other senior advisors. Likewise with President Trump, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, other senior White House and State Department officials will come in to the meeting. And that will go on for about another hour, hour and a half before they start what is described as a working lunch. And that is expected to wrap up at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. And then we understand Kim Jong-un, if it goes according to plan, is going to head straight to the airport, get on his plane and go back to Pyongyang. President Trump is going to stay here. He's going to hold a press conference after this historic summit, and then he will head to an airbase, get on Air Force One, and we think he'll depart from Singapore at about 7 o'clock this evening, heading back to the United States. So this is a very, very compressed time frame for this summit, really just a few hours, just 3 or 4 hours together, and then they all head home.
All right, we're seeing pictures right now of the convoy of Kim Jong-un just leaving the St. Regis Hotel, passing through a major thoroughfare called Tangrin Road, after which it will be passing through the main commercial establishment of Orchard Road as they pass through Marina Bay and onto Sentosa Island. So, Rupert, briefly, what can be achieved in such a short time between the two leaders if Kim Jong-un is leaving earlier than Donald Trump?
Yeah, I mean, when this news came out a day or so ago that Kim Jong-un was leaving at 2 o'clock this afternoon, I think everybody was taken by surprise because we thought this might be a one-day process. It might go on into a second day. There were hints from Donald Trump that he was prepared to take it into a second day, but it appears that is not going to happen. So whatever they have agreed in the last few days is what they are going to have today, perhaps with a bit more from Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un hashing the last details out face to face. Now, what some people have said is this is a unique relationship because North Korea is the only person who can make really big decisions, really history-changing decisions, is the supreme leader Kim Jong-un himself. And so this meeting this morning offers the opportunity with these two men together that Donald Trump can talk directly to Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un has the power, has the authority in North Korea, the only one, to say, okay, I believe you, I trust you, we have a working relationship, I'm going to commit to, for example, giving up my nuclear weapons program. This is the hope of the optimists who say, this could lead to a historical breakthrough. Others, and there are many of them who are skeptical about this whole process, say there hasn't been enough time. North Korea is a very difficult country to negotiate with, and there is a worry, I think, on the part of the skeptics that Kim Jong-un has turned up here to get the international spotlight, to look like a statesman, to get a photo opportunity, but actually he's not intending on giving very much away at all.